Hello, I'm Holly Whitelaw. I'm presenting How Not to Waste Your Soil, but Grow It. Please kindly ask me any questions you like in the Q&A section. So, in order to understand how best to grow and protect our soil, we need to understand it better. You probably know this, but there's more living organisms in a teaspoon of decent soil than people on the planet. And such a teaspoonful could well contain more than 75,000 different types of bacteria, 1,000 types of protozoa, 100 species of nematodes, and loads more. Bacteria. So here we go. They're tiny. They're the most hardy microbes in our soil. They can survive under harsh conditions like tillage, and that's why our soils are bacteria dominant currently. There are loads of them, as much mass as around 2 cows per acre. They decompose organic material and minerals and turn it into nutrients that plants can use. They can also make an important carbon glue that holds tiny particles together like bricks. The fungi then use these little bricks and some of their own gooey mortar to build a bridge connecting plant roots to them. You see, plant roots aren't very extensive, and when connected to fungi, can reach a wider area of the soil. Fungi act like an extension of the root, enabling the plant to access nutrients and water from further afield. Plants, in return, pump excess carbohydrates that they've made from photosynthesis, plus acids and vitamins, down to their root tips to feed the fungi. They work symbiotically together, like much of life in the world. Um, the clumps that are formed are called soil aggregates, and because they're created using such strong goo, they don't get washed away with the rain. This is trapped organic matter. This is what is a type of soil carbon sequestration. This carbon, should you see, then be protected and remain in the soil, as it could potentially sit there growing bigger, being slowly built upon from above with organic materials, feeding plants and microbes for years and years, potentially far longer than trees ever can. Fungi are also the guys that form the magic networks you may have heard about, enabling plants to talk better to each other and for protection. This is a soil aggregate. We want to keep that down there. What else is going on? Protozoa mainly eat bacteria and therefore also tend to be found near the plant roots. They like water, are a food source for other organisms, help suppress disease by competing with or feeding on pathogens. Pathogens are bad. They also help plants access nitrogen and other nutrients. Nematodes. These guys are interesting because basically when they eat bacteria and fungi, ammonia is released because the bacteria and fungi contain much more nitrogen than the nematodes require. Anyhow, getting a bit nerdy here. They also attack insects and help control pests. They're mainly beneficial, but if you don't want nasty ones, plant something I don't like. They love root crops. They'll leave if it gets anaerobic and if things get shaken up. Then you've got all these little critters, the arthropods and the see, I can't even say it, microarthropods. These guys turn plant litter over and make it smaller with their nibbling and help start with the degradation process, therefore. This is one type called a springtail. They're cool because they help spread fungal spores around. Then you've got some algae, and that can help free up oxygen in the soil through photosynthesis. This guy, I can't even say the name, he keeps down some types of pathogens, viruses. They're super amazing. They're the smallest microorganism and help microbes genetically mutate to their environment, as well as control incorrect population amounts. Then we've got the lovely earthworm. These guys generate tons of cast per acre, dramatically altering soil structure. Although earthworms derive their nutrition from microorganisms, many more microorganisms are present in their poo than what they ate. They're called casts, not poo, sorry. They literally create life. You see, an organic matter passes through their intestine. As it's broken up, it's seeded with more microorganisms. Cool, hey? We want and need more microorganisms, and this is why we love earthworms in our compost and our soil. But they also improve water holding capacity, mix and aggregate soil, increase infiltration, provide channels for root growth, bury and shred plant residues. So worms are a great indicator of healthy soil, actually, a bit like birds. Um, this is a soil food web. Indeed, it's incredibly complex, but the main thing is to know that we need all of them working together. They build bonds, they network together, they work symbiotically. Um, they're responsible for making nutrients, accessing, giving them, rather not making the nutrients, or making the nutrients accessible to the plants. They determine the soil structure, water, air movement. They control disease, plant health, and growth. It's really important stuff. If you don't have healthy soil, you can't have healthy plants. We need healthy plants, and we need healthy animals eating those plants. Life in the soil, that's microbes or microorganisms, whatever you want to call them, they have been depleted quite massively. We've also lost a lot of soil from runoff, and a lot of this is to do with compaction, artificial fertilizers, chemical inputs, lack of a mixture of plant roots, lack of protection from plants, and general lack of attention. This is a slight aside, but important. When the soil is exposed to light and heat, it releases carbon dioxide through a chemical process called oxidization, which is a bit like burning. The light and the heat burn it, and the UV rays sterilize it, sterilizing to the life in the soil. It is this release of carbon dioxide that we do not need right now. Covered soil also keeps cooler and the air above it cooler, which we do need right now. Tillage exposes organic matter. This is the main mass of soil, the stuff that can act as a sponge to both water and carbon and to the elements. It is then that it can be blown or washed away. Tillage seriously damages fungal networks too. It also causes compaction, and it's not just tractors here, but animals and human pressures too. And the tillage produces a compaction layer, all which creates environments where there's no air for the microbes to breathe. It's in these anaerobic conditions too that nasty and harmful pathogens are created that we don't want. We need to understand too that when soil is first turned over, plants will initially grow better because the microorganisms die and then release their nutrients into the soil. But if you keep doing this, eventually the soil will be dead. Without the benefits of microbes, plants will become weak and prone to disease. As a result, farmers have instinctively added artificial fertilizers, which then kill off those remaining microbes. Reducing the time land is left bare, and the amount of tillage is therefore a key area to concentrate. It's not as easy, I know. It isn't as easy as I know, as I say. It's difficult, but the direct drill and the conservation sections of the Farming Forum, the Facebook page, Regenerative Farming UK, both have farmers on there wanting to help you. You can follow Regen Ben on Twitter, or Niels Corfield on LinkedIn. They have loads of information to share. Obviously, a direct drill, for example, to help with reducing tillage costs a lot of money, but money will be coming through DEFRA's transition scheme, and cover crops can have multiple benefits. Their main use is to protect the soil from erosion and exposure, but also cover crops give food to the microorganisms in the winter, building your soil health. Microbes need living roots though, in order to feed from. And it's not just only keeping a root in there. You need, and hence you need to think about perennials more. But it's even better if you could have a mix of roots, because they give a mix of food. And you can also use diverse rotations for this. Anyhow, if you can at times have a mixture of living roots all growing together, this really helps life underground, as I've said. If you have different plants with different root lengths, different areas of the soil can be reached, which will have more diverse microbes being supported, creating more life, and more diverse nutrients being available. It's yeah, diversity is key. Experiments done by the likes of Gabe Brown, a great regenerative farmer in the States, and the Yenna project have proven that mycorrhizal fungi, for example, really kick off with a mix of 7 or more different plant species grown in one area. When this happens, the plants become better networked and therefore stronger, more resilient. Stronger plants, stronger soil, more resilient to climate change, and more water trapped. Having such a mix is difficult in most farming situations, but possible in an animal rotation with the inclusion of a multi-species herbal ley. Ordinarily, multi-cropping, alley cropping, undersowing, and indeed layering of plants in an agroforest style, utilizing successional and companion planting, will help. Excuse me. It's all about mixing it up more, getting more creative with rotations. This is Gabe Brown's cash flow. He only uses 3 people working for him. Obviously, there needs to be a shift not only in the on the land, but with the market dynamics to support this increase in diversity. And personally, I think that more than ever, farmers need to work closely together in local hubs. We also need to reduce the use of artificial fertilizers, because if you give a plant free nitrogen, potassium, or phosphorus, the plant doesn't have to work for it. Ordinarily, nitrogen, for example, is cycled through various life forms before it's taken up by the plant. The plant will, as a result, miss out on all the trace elements and other minerals which are fed along with the nitrogen by the microbes. The plants also don't have to photosynthesize enough to push sugars down to the roots to feed the biology down there. So the microbes then have less to eat. As you may remember, vitamins too are part of the exchange. And therefore, if given enough to grow for free, plants will potentially lack vitamins as they don't have to produce them to feed the microorganisms to get their nitrogen. It's crazy that we've been thinking this fertilizer is good for our plants when in fact it isn't. And the whole dynamics of life in the soil is confused. Nitrogen runoff is a massive problem too because of algae growth suffocating our waterways. I know this information is a bit shocking, but it will hopefully shift the way you look at things. We're all on a steep learning curve, myself included. As you might expect, that the use of pesticides, fungicides, insecticides, they all kill life in the soil again and put out of balance. We definitely need to add more right now. So you can add more by adding animals, because they've got the wee, the poo, and the saliva all with microbes in it. But we've got to mitigate their burping though by having multi-species herbal leys, not importing fodder. Be careful if you are putting in a herbal ley that you don't till the land to do so. You don't want to cause more harm than good there. Seeds can be added after sheep have eaten the grass really short, or even the seeds can be given to animals in their feed or popped in cowpats and molehills. I know people have done that. I know it's a pain, but it's worth doing. And if you do it, then mob graze those herbal leys, because then you can better keep them going, because the animals eat everything and it all passes through. So they're not just picking out the things they want. Obviously, there's compost tea, compost extract as well that can add microbes to your soil. Think of it as an inoculant. If you can produce a fantastic compost, a little go a long way. It's a science though, it needs care and time. The compost on here on the left is a static aerated one designed by Dr. Johnson Sue. This one doesn't need turning as it has the tubes to get air in, but it encourages therefore more fungal growth because it's not being turned over. The one on the right is the start of a Dr. Lane Ingram style composter who's a master. So this is a comparison of 4 neighboring farms I just want to leave you with in North Dakota quickly. I haven't got much time, but basically if you look at the facts there, the regenerative guys are literally making more soil. They are filtrating more water. They are increasing all the nutrients in their soil, and we all need to try and get on and do this. I wish you every best for the rest of the show, and yeah, please do ask me any questions, though I'm afraid I'm no major expert, but I'm trying my best. Thank you.